Hello, my name is John Brink, and you're watching A History of the BC Forest Industry. Hi, thank you for joining us today, and we are joined today by Lacey Rose from all the way in Labrador. Lacey, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. I'm actually in Ontario right now, but I am from Labrador.
Where in Labrador?
I was born and raised in Labrador City.
Wow. So tell us a little bit about yourself. Obviously, you are known for and are the co-founder of Women in Wood, and tell us a little bit about where you're from and about Labrador and from there on forward.
Sure. Yeah, so I was born in Labrador City and I spent the first 18 years of my life there. I had a really great childhood, awesome availability of woods experience. Spent most weekends at the cabin with my family and lots of time on skidoo and fishing and stuff like that. There was no forest sector in Labrador City though. So I didn't know what forestry was. When I got to high school, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do with my life. I had, decent grades and, I figured I was going to do some kind of post-secondary education. I stayed in Labrador City for my first year of college for kind of a basic year that I could transfer into whatever I chose next. I was really lucky to have a professor at that time who thought that my interests were, the outdoors, wildlife, and that kind of stuff. And he asked if I'd ever considered a career in forestry. And I said, I don't know what that is, but I looked into it. I decided to go to the University of New Brunswick in Fredericton. I did the Bachelor of Science in Forestry there. I graduated in 2006. For a couple summer jobs during school, my first real forestry job, I guess, was in Denver, Colorado. And I was working for Davey Tree down there. And I ended up in Cochrane for a summer. And then after graduating, I was in Folliet, Ontario, population 150. Shortly after that, I ended up in Pembroke, Ontario, and that's where I live now. So I've had a couple jobs since landing in this area with the provincial government. Then I worked for Ontario Parks, and my first full-time job was the plan author for the Bancroft Mineral and Forest Company in Bancroft. So I wrote a forest management plan. And then my next gig was with the County of Renfrew, and that's where I currently work now. So I'm the county forester for this area.
Of Renfrew, right? So
yeah,
Renfrew County. I know the name. I'm not exactly sure where it is located.
So it's the largest geographic county in Ontario. So basically north of Ottawa, almost all the way to Mattawa, and then out to Barry's Bay. So it's kind of like central Ontario along the Ottawa River, and we can wave at Quebec across the Ottawa River.
Right. Yeah, so that's a fairly big area, right?
Yeah. So I manage the forest that's owned by the county. So it's actually pretty small land base, only about 6,500 hectares, but I do most of the things associated with the management of that forest. So today I was out marking trees for harvest.
So that includes also sawmills or other people that are harvesting trees within the land base that you manage?
Yeah, so we contract out the harvesting. So I would write the prescription for harvest, do the tree marking, and then we tender out the harvest, and then I supervise the operation.
And then the wood usually goes towards the sawmills that are located in that particular region?
Yeah, our main, a lot of the mills around here would be red and white pine. We also have some mills that saw poplar. We aren't lucky enough to have any pulp mills in the area, so it goes elsewhere. We have an MDF plant and a bio-oil plant also that uses chips.
Interesting. Bio-oil is again a new product to the industry, relatively speaking.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about, especially in your past, how, certainly a career choice that is not overly common. Obviously, you're an outdoorsy type of person. Your background was in that area. Did part of your family work in the forest already as a career?
No, I had absolutely no connection to the sector. So it was a really random choice for me. When I chose to go to that program, I picked it because it was a 95% post-graduation employment rate that they were advertising. And I would say that it's 100% now. Like there's a real shortage of registered professional foresters. So it's a great area to get into. Um, I had no idea what I was getting into. I kind of thought I was going to be a wildlife biologist when I finished. I did not know that it was a male dominated field. Even when I was in school, about 8 out of 32, I think, of us were women. The bells weren't going off of, oh, I'm a minority. And the first couple of jobs I had were with women. So I still didn't really know until I worked for industry. And then I was like, oh, okay, it is a male dominated industry. But I've had really great mentors, most of whom have been men, and I don't feel like it's been a disadvantage to be a woman in the sector.
Right. And so then where does women in wood come into the picture?
Yeah, so my good friend Jessica Kaknavicius, who at the time was working for Forest Ontario, we met mainly because we were two of few women at a lot of forestry events that were happening in Ontario. So we kind of signaled each other out and we were like, oh, hey, we should be friends. A couple years we joked about it, oh, we should start a rebuttal to the boys club that's at these events. But it turned into more than that of like, hey, I wonder like how many women are really out there. So we just started this informal networking group and called it Women in Wood back in 2015. And at the time, we just invited the few women that we knew that were working in the forest sector, and it was a private Facebook group for women in the forest sector. We had no idea that there was such an appetite for that. So now we have about 1,500 women in the group from all over Canada, the US, and Europe. And the main goals are to just provide support to women who are in different stages of their careers, who we can either collaborate with or mentor each other, offer advice, help people find employment. It's been really nice to see that the group has just taken on a life of its own, and discussions are just happening in there now. And a lot of women have reported like really benefiting from having that sense of community.
Yeah, and just for the benefit of some of our listeners, I think it's great, actually. I've been in the industry both in Europe and in Canada my whole life, for nearly 60 years. And, and always kind of saw it as pretty much a male industry, but more recently seeing more and more women involved, both at the training levels. We have the University of Northern British Columbia here. I was doing a presentation to one of their classes in forestry, and amazingly, it appeared like between 30 and 40% of the participants were women. So which was, a pleasant surprise. And so we see that obviously more and more. And, so my question then to you would be, is that since you have an amazing group and growing of 1,600 women throughout the world, Europe and North America mainly, but maybe other places as well, that do you have a website for those that are interested to become part of it, or to peruse your website and get some ideas?
Yeah, for sure. So we do have a website with a blog. It's womeninwood.ca. And we're on Twitter, Instagram. And so the only part that is private for women only is the networking group on Facebook. But we've had events. There's often more men than women at the events, and it's for everyone to kind of see the experience that women have had and to help them advance in the sector.
So it's not exclusive, the membership, to women, or is it of
Well,
your?
the members in the group are women, but like our website, we would be happy to have like a blog post written by a man who acts as has had really great mentorship relationship with women, or topics
Great.
like that. So we're not exclusive.
Yeah, then maybe, Lacey, give me the website once more so that we make absolutely sure that people get it.
Sure. So it's womeninwood.ca.
Okay, womeninwood.ca. And, so that then being part of it, obviously, so when did you start that again, that particular organization?
2015.
2015. So it's only really 5 years young, if you wish, and growing. So is there a formal structure? Do you give presentations in different places, or how does the organization work? Does it actively stimulate interaction and discussions and in a formal way? In terms of giving presentations?
So it's pretty informal. It's We're not a registered group or anything, and we just volunteer our time to do this. And like I said, the group is kind of its own initiator now. So we have had events that have been sponsored by companies who support women in wood. We did start since COVID. We had a couple like Zoom get-togethers, and we also had a presentation by two retired women in wood, helping other women to prepare for interviews and applying for jobs and stuff like that. We have given presentations at several conferences and things like that, just to get the word out. And also, I think when people hear about the group, they think that it is something that it's not. So we just, we wanted to be clear about the fact that we're just trying to get more women in the sector and help develop the skills that help women advance in the forest sector.
And across the board, right? Not limited to forestry only, or managing the land base, but including into manufacturing and product development and right across the board, right?
Yeah, so our tagline is women who work for, with, and in the woods. So we have women who work in mills, women who work in forest education, women who do the traditional in the woods kind of work. Even some loggers have shown up in the group, so it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting in our programs that we have done. We usually try to find people that are unique in the different areas of the industry, but not exclusive to the industry, but also associated to it. And so we have had on a couple of occasions interesting persons. What comes to mind is the Ashley Sidhu, who's a young lady, likely, I'm saying it just for description, normal like us in terms of not heavy, like, heavy muscled and that sort of a thing that sometimes we relate to being, heavy timber and lumber, but she in fact drives a logging truck and a 16-wheeler and hauls heavy loads all the way from well north of Prince George all the way to south of Prince George. Probably, I would say probably 200 kilometers at least, in winter and summer. And that includes chaining up in the difficult weather conditions and going off-road. And, so we try to showcase that part as well, that, that it is not exclusive to man, or you don't have to be built like a bodybuilder to be able to deal with the heavy loads. No, see, those particular jobs virtually all jobs that I'm aware of can virtually be done by either men or women. And we encourage in our own operations, more and more women in particular in our workforce.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, that any job in the forest sector can be done by a man or a woman. And I've seen myself the change and benefit of having a balance, both around the table. I've worked with mostly men in my career, and it's been amazing. I can definitely see the dynamic shift a little bit when a few women are introduced around a board table or in a meeting, and in a productive way. You know, like everyone just has different perspectives from different, either in different stages of life or, you know, different experiences. And I think you can have some really productive discussions and different ideas when there's diversity around the table.
Yeah, the other thing, Lacey, which is, and again, as I said earlier, at the beginning of my career, I worked in Holland, actually, in the lumber industry, and I was trained as a furniture maker. And then aspired, when I was in Holland, to go to Canada, and then go in Canada, particularly to, where the forest was, because my dream was to build a sawmill. And and so I did that in 1965, and then came here, and then was absolutely totally amazed by the land Canada on its own. We were liberated in 1945 by the Canadian soldiers, and I always admired Canada, the land of my heroes. And when I came here in the summer of 1965, the first thing that struck me is, flying into Montreal and then by train across Canada, 4 days, 5 nights. It is an amazing, amazing country. And then British Columbia, when I came here, first to Vancouver, and then, being a fairly young man, then explaining to an immigration person what I wanted to do, he said, go to Prince George. Now, Prince George is 500 miles north, 800 kilometers north of Vancouver. It is the exact center of British Columbia, east to west, north to south. And it's called the spruce capital of the world. And then in 1965, it was boomtown. And the forest industry was very dominant in the region. Lots of entrepreneurial lots of smaller mills, which then gradually changed into, over all the years, consolidating more and more, and dominated by majors. I find now, a couple of things. We were affected by the dominant species here is spruce, and then lodgepole pine. Pine was affected by the pandemic in the 2000, late 90s, 1990s and 2000, and virtually wiped out the entire pine in the interior of the province. The industry has been in transition virtually for the last 25 years from becoming predominantly manufacturing dimension lumber, looking more and more at further manufacturing of value added. You see the same trends in Eastern Canada and in particular Ontario, Quebec?
Yeah, so I've been in the Ottawa Valley for most of my career, and I feel like it's maybe there's some similarity in different products, but it's all family-owned businesses in this area. Some of them up to 7 generations of their family have been running this mill. I find it so like I feel honored to be part of that community, and I'm constantly inspired by how much value they put into sustainably managing the forest, because they know it's for the next generation. So it's really neat. So it's traditional sawmilling. You know, white pine is what built the Ottawa Valley. It's still like one of the main products. The low end material has always been the challenge here, and it continues to be. So I am encouraged to see at least pilots and small scale operations for like the bio oil I mentioned. It would be great if we could get a bioeconomy going, getting rid of like the poplar pulp and the chips are always, it's always a problem. So
yeah. And secondary manufacturing, furniture manufacturing, and those kind of operations in the Ottawa Valley area?
Yeah, so that's actually a funny story. So when I first arrived on the scene, I was like, you know, pretty young. I was buying all my furniture at IKEA. And then I was like, this stuff is falling apart. Like, how do I get locally made furniture? And of course, no one was online. No one had websites for their businesses. But I was hearing about all these people who were making stuff. So when I first started working for the county, I pitched an idea to make a local wood directory called ottawavalleywood.com. So I got to go around and visit all of these local wood producers, and there's so many. There's people making all kinds of stuff around here. So it is really nice to see all that secondary manufacturing. It's mostly quite small scale, but there's a lot of really excellent artisans and makers around here.
Yeah, the opportunity is in the same experience I had, and then my background being a furniture maker, and then going into manufacturing, and obviously mainly in BC, throughout BC. I was the founding president of an organization called the BC Council Value Added Wood Processors. It's represented about 800 companies over 8 associations in the mid-90s. A lot of those companies today do not exist any longer because they had difficulty accessing raw material. So that sector has become smaller, but today more and more focus is going on. Either you are in the dimension manufacturing, which tends to be cyclical, or you have to find other ways to do further manufacturing. But we found in that experience, in my own personal experience, that although we have the wood quality, and in particular, it was very appropriate you brought up IKEA, the success story of IKEA, extremely unique. And actually, there are books available that tell about the person, the Swede that started it. I forget his name offhand, but that they have wood species very similar to ours. The key to this success has been not the wood, not the ability to manufacture, but design. And design is always the underlying issue, that you have the fiber, you have people that are willing to do the job. Then if they have the skill sets, the one other key element remaining is design. IKEA is a perfect example of what design can do, because they were in the same situation as we are, if it is BC or the Ottawa Valley or anywhere else. We have the fiber, but what we do not have, as much as we like to get, is design or skill sets that is on the furniture side. On the other side, what is happening to the industry, that has to change in terms of finding new products for new markets, meaning that we have to add more value. May that be in bio oil or in pellet manufacturing, or beyond that in other products that are unique to the industry, but also in terms of, it is forecasted that in the next 5, 10, 20 years, the skill sets required for manufacturing the new products for new markets require new training. So we're working closely with the colleges in developing centers of excellence, where we can look at scanning, robotics, and other ways in developing new products for new markets. And I kind of believe that there is the next future that will revitalize, the different areas of Canada to put more effort into developing the land base and the species and the tending, so that we can get more yield per hectare from the land base that we now already have.
Yeah, I've been doing a side hustle job for the last couple of years. I'm hosting a web series, and it's brought me to some different countries, and Sweden was one of those. And I got to visit a forestry operation outside of Gothenburg, and that was a real eye-opener for me to see the difference in the value of wood in European countries, and also how many product sorts were on the landing, how much more utilization they were able to get because of the different markets. It really made me look at things in a different way, and so hopeful that maybe someday we'll get there where you can be using the smaller material for heating communities and things like that. But also they take very good care of the forest, and they leave piles of slash so that the fine materials can fall off and decompose back into the soil, and replanting back into a natural forest environment in the forest that I was in. Yeah, so I was really grateful for that experience, and I kind of I hope that we can diversify in that way. Canada's so young compared to Europe in these industries, so I think that it gave me a lot of hope for the future.
Yeah, me too. And as I said, Lacey, we have the land base. If it is the Ottawa Valley or northern British Columbia, we have the location and the market location. We have the resources in terms of people. We can develop the skill sets, but we must first and foremost develop a land base, a forest land base that will equal places like Sweden, not unsimilar to BC, where they get 50% more yield from the land base. They employ virtually 50% or 60% more people on a per cubic meter basis. And so there is lots of room for improvement. And I'm sure, you know, that as we go through a changing industry here in British Columbia, and you are in Ontario and the Ottawa Valley and other places, it will always come to, are we good stewards of the resource? Are we conscious of the global warming? And how can we become better stewards? How do we add more social and economic value to the rich resources that we have, producing, again, not unsimilar to IKEA, new products for new markets, and then in the process also the skill sets, and then create the passion by young people of knowing there are careers, future careers in the forest industry as a choice for their futures. And I believe that is very important.
I think that us in the forest sector have an important role to play in making that wood culture, so that people that aren't in the sector think of wood as a good choice to make, and it becomes more valued by our society, and also that see the careers as ones that young people would want to pursue. So we have to just keep talking about how great forestry is, I think.
And I believe that too. Lacey Rose, it was a pleasure from as the co-founder of obviously Women in Wood. We have your website. We'll make sure that we let people know to check in on your website, and we'll be watching you, and we'll stay in touch. And yeah, I wish you all the luck.
Thank you. So nice to talk to you.
Yes. Thank you for watching us today. Our guest today was Lacey Rose, a lady that is originally from Labrador and is working right now for the Forest of Landfru in Ontario. But even more important, in my opinion, is she is a co-founder for the organization Women in Wood, who are dealing with advice, information, and encouragement. They started this organization in about 2015. In the last 5 years, have accumulated 1,600 people, women from around the world that are interacting with each other about wood and opportunities and advice. And you will find Lacey, as I did, extremely interesting, and the organization will grow. It can be found on womeninwood.ca. So we all encourage everybody to check it out. And again, thank you for watching us, and we'll see you the next time.